Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're talking about the Rogers-Shaw merger. Keldon, I think the big question a lot of Canadians have is how this deal might affect them as consumers. I mean, we know that the Bureau has their opinion, the Tribunal has issued their opinion. What is your opinion? How is this deal going to affect consumers?
Well, I think there's a lot of risk here that consumers are, certainly not made better off and potentially worse off. It really hinges on, does Videotron make good on its, I would say commitments, but its message that it is ready to be a, disruptive competitor in the wireless space. We are, no matter what, we are losing a source of potential competition in Canada with the removal of Shaw. And so future expansion that could have occurred on both sides is now sort of a foregone conclusion with them exiting the market. So, Videotron has been a strong competitor in Quebec. But the big question is, especially with these agreements it's entered into with Rogers, is it going to replicate that performance? And, is Rogers really willing to create a disruptive competitor for itself?
Michael, same question to you. We know what the Tribunal thinks. We know what Keldon thinks, and what the Bureau thinks. What's your view on how this might affect competition in Canada in the telecom industry and the wireless industry?
Well, to my mind, one of the longer term questions, which Keldon alluded to, was whether Shaw. I mean, we accept that Shaw says that they didn't have the ability to turn Freedom into something more. So if Freedom, as a owned by Shaw, was just going to left to wither on the vine, then to my mind, the question is, well, is it just a matter of timing? Is the loss of this player going to be felt eventually? Right. And so if that's the question, I ask, is there another way to have competition that doesn't require an exact copy of the business model of Bell, Rogers, and Telus? Right. And can having that Videotron piggybacking Freedom onto the other network, onto Rogers network, can that drive prices down? I mean, that remains to be seen, but I think that's the only way there can be a positive impact for consumers at this point.
Keldon, can you give me a sense of whether or not the telecom industry has a competition problem relative to other countries? Because I certainly think that has been a lot of the discussion publicly around this merger. It's the sense among a lot of Canadians that we have very high prices for telecom services. But I'd love to hear an expert opinion about whether that perception's accurate.
Well, I think that perception is backed up by a lot of evidence, both quantitative data and just the sort of anecdotal experiences when Canadians go abroad, or when international individuals come and live in Canada and sort of run face first into our telecom oligopoly. So we definitely do have a competition issue, and we continue to sort of struggle to address that issue. And I think building on Michael's point, the question now going forward is to say, in this new environment, what is the right approach to not just competition policy, but in particular telecom policy that can actually deliver benefits to Canadians when there is, and it's unsurprisingly a very contested point, but quite a bit of evidence that we pay globally much higher than peer jurisdictions.
Michael, the companies have said that in order, in part, to protect consumers, that they're not going to be increasing prices for a set period for 3 years after the deal. Are there any other promises being made to consumers? And what about after those 3 years? Will this, is this going to have a long-term impact on competition, even if in the 3 years there's this hold on the prices?
And I think to step back, as it ended, right? Well, I'll start with the end. The Videotron prices were about 20% lower in Quebec, or the average price in Quebec. And I think Minister Champagne said he wouldn't transfer the spectrum licenses over unless they had prices that were equal to that. And the companies agreed to that. So it started out with this vague promise that they were going to hold prices in 3 years. But in the end, I think the divestiture deal that sees Freedom go to Videotron, at least in the short term, is going to be better. But after that, there's been recurring problems in Canada where, well, I don't know if it's a problem, but what happens is is, promises are made, they are kept, but then after that period expands, then sometimes the wireless spectrum just goes back to the incumbent or goes to one of the other big three. So it's pretty hard to enforce after these deals expire. But while they make a commitment, sometimes they get turned into a court order,
Right. So
and those are enforceable.
we've got to go to break now, but we'll be right back.